Have you ever wondered why the UK has thousands of road accidents every single year, even though most drivers genuinely believe they're good behind the wheel? The truth is, some of the most dangerous habits on British roads aren't reckless stunts or extreme speeding. They're small, everyday mistakes that almost every driver makes without even realizing it. Today, we're breaking down the most common driving mistakes UK drivers make, why they happen, and how you can avoid becoming part of the statistic. Stick around because mistake number 7 is something almost everyone does at least once a week. Let's start with one of the biggest culprits on UK roads, middle lane hogging. If you've ever driven on a motorway, you've seen it. Someone sitting in the middle lane for miles, even when the inside lane is completely empty. This might not feel like a big deal, but it actually increases congestion, forces other drivers to undertake, and raises the risk of accidents. The middle lane should only be used when overtaking or when the inside lane has slower moving traffic like lorries or vans. Once you've passed them, you're supposed to move back over. It sounds simple, but somehow it's one of the most repeated mistakes across the entire country. Next up, tailgating. Following too closely behind another vehicle is incredibly common, especially during rush hour when everyone is in a hurry. The problem is that tailgating dramatically reduces your reaction time. If the car in front brakes suddenly, you simply don't have enough space to stop safely. The general rule is to leave at least a 2-second gap in dry conditions and double that in wet weather. Yet on any given motorway, you'll see cars bumper to bumper at 70 miles an hour, which is honestly terrifying when you think about the physics involved. Now let's talk about indicating, or rather, the lack of it. Forgetting to use indicators or using them too late is one of those small mistakes that causes massive confusion on the road. Roundabouts are the worst offenders here. So many drivers fail to indicate when exiting a roundabout, leaving everyone else guessing what they're about to do. Indicators exist to communicate your intentions to other road users, and skipping that step removes a layer of safety that protects everyone, including pedestrians and cyclists who rely on those signals to judge when it's safe to cross or merge. Speaking of roundabouts, lane discipline on them is another huge issue. Many UK drivers simply don't know which lane to be in when approaching a roundabout, especially larger multi-lane ones. This leads to last-minute lane changes, sudden braking, and near misses. The golden rule is simple. If you're turning left or going straight ahead, stay in the left lane. If you're turning right or doing a U-turn, use the right lane. It sounds basic, but you'd be amazed how often this gets ignored, especially during busy commuter hours when people are rushing and not paying full attention to lane markings. Let's move on to mobile phone use, which remains one of the most dangerous habits despite years of campaigns and increasingly strict laws. Even glancing at a phone for a few seconds can mean traveling the length of a football pitch without actually watching the road. In the UK, using a handheld phone while driving is illegal, yet so many drivers still check messages at red lights, scroll through playlists while moving, or even take quick glances at notifications. The penalties have become harsher, including points on your license and significant fines, but the real cost isn't financial. It's the lives that can be lost in a split second of distraction. Another mistake that catches drivers out constantly is not checking blind spots before changing lanes. Mirrors are helpful, but they don't show everything. Vehicles can hide in that little gap your mirrors don't cover, especially motorcycles, which are smaller and easier to miss. The classic mirror, signal, maneuver routine exists for a reason, yet so many drivers skip the shoulder check and rely purely on their side mirrors. This is one of the leading causes of side impact collisions on UK roads, particularly on motorways where speed differences make these accidents even more severe. Let's talk about speed, but not in the way you might expect. Yes, speeding is dangerous, but driving too slowly for the conditions can be just as risky. Some drivers become overly cautious, crawling along well below the speed limit on roads where traffic is flowing much faster. This creates frustration, encourages dangerous overtaking from other drivers, and can actually increase the likelihood of accidents. Matching your speed appropriately to the road, traffic flow, and conditions is just as important as not speeding. Driving should feel smooth and predictable, not like a constant battle between too fast and too slow. Now here's one that catches a lot of UK drivers off guard: junction priority confusion. Many junctions, especially in older towns and villages, have unusual layouts, where it isn't immediately clear who has right of way. Mistakes here often happen at give-way junctions, where drivers either stop unnecessarily, causing confusion behind them, or fail to stop when they actually should. Unmarked junctions are particularly tricky because there's no signage at all, just an unwritten rule that drivers should proceed with caution and give way to whoever arrived first or is already established in the junction. A lot of minor collisions in residential areas happen simply because someone misjudged who actually had priority. Let's discuss weather adaptation, because this is a mistake that becomes incredibly relevant given how unpredictable British weather can be. Rain, fog, ice, and even sudden sun glare all require adjustments to driving style, yet many drivers continue at the same speed regardless of conditions. Stopping distances can double or even triple on wet roads, and visibility in fog can drop to just a few meters. Despite this, you'll often see drivers using full-beam headlights in fog, which actually makes visibility worse by reflecting light back at them, or driving at normal speeds during heavy rain without increasing their following distance. Weather-related mistakes are responsible for a significant number of accidents every single year in the UK. Parking might seem like a low-stakes part of driving, but it's actually where a huge number of minor accidents and dents happen. Poor parking judgment, misjudging space, reversing too quickly, or not checking surroundings properly before pulling into a space all contribute to this. Multi-story car parks and busy supermarket car parks are notorious for these kinds of incidents because of tight spaces and high pedestrian footfall. Taking that extra few seconds to check mirrors, use parking sensors if available, and reverse slowly can prevent a lot of unnecessary stress and repair costs. Now let's talk about something that affects nearly everyone: impatience at traffic lights and junctions. Anticipating a green light and starting to move before it actually changes, or jumping a light that's just turned red, are both incredibly common mistakes, especially during busy periods. This impatience often comes from a desire to save just a few seconds, but it dramatically increases the risk of side collisions, especially from pedestrians or cyclists who may be crossing on the assumption that the light sequence is being followed correctly. Patience at junctions isn't just polite, it's a core safety habit. Let's address something a lot of people don't think about: headlight and hazard light misuse. Forgetting to turn on headlights during dusk or poor visibility conditions is surprisingly common, especially with modern cars that have automatic lighting systems people assume are always active. On the flip side, some drivers use hazard lights inappropriately, leaving them on while parked illegally or using them as a substitute for proper indicating in heavy traffic. Hazard lights have a specific purpose: warning others of a stationary vehicle or hazard, and using them outside of that purpose can create confusion rather than clarity. Now, here's mistake number 7 that I mentioned earlier, and it's one almost every driver is guilty of: not giving cyclists enough space when overtaking. The recommended distance is at least 1.5 meters, but in reality, many drivers squeeze past cyclists with barely any room at all, especially on narrower roads. This isn't usually intentional malice, it's often impatience or simply underestimating how much space a cyclist actually needs to stay balanced and safe. With cycling becoming more popular across the UK, this is a mistake that genuinely needs more attention from everyone on the road. Let's also touch on motorway etiquette more broadly, because there are a few specific habits that consistently cause problems. Not using the slip road properly to merge up to speed before joining the motorway is one. Drivers sometimes join at low speed, forcing vehicles already on the motorway to brake suddenly. Another is failing to leave space for other vehicles to merge in the first place, almost driving defensively against the very idea of someone joining. Good motorway driving is about flow and cooperation, not territorial lane holding. One more significant mistake worth mentioning is overconfidence after passing the driving test. New drivers, and sometimes even experienced ones, can develop a false sense of mastery that leads to riskier decisions, faster speeds in unfamiliar conditions, or skipping basic checks they used to do diligently. Confidence is good, but overconfidence removes the healthy caution that keeps drivers alert and responsive to the unexpected. Finally, let's talk about something that ties all of these mistakes together: general lack of awareness. Whether it's not checking mirrors often enough, not anticipating what other road users might do, or simply zoning out during a long drive. Awareness is the foundation of safe driving. Every mistake we've talked about today becomes far less likely when a driver stays mentally present, scans the road regularly, and treats every journey, no matter how short or familiar, with the same level of attention they'd give a completely new route. So, what can you actually do with all this information? Start by being honest with yourself. Which of these mistakes do you recognize in your own driving? Maybe it's lane discipline on roundabouts, maybe it's tailgating during your morning commute. Or maybe it's that quick glance at your phone at a red light that you tell yourself doesn't really count. Awareness is the first step toward change. The second step is consistency, building better habits one drive at a time until they become second nature rather than a conscious effort. The roads in the UK are busy, varied, and full of unpredictable situations, from narrow country lanes to high-speed motorways. No driver is perfect, and even the most experienced among us slip into bad habits occasionally. What matters is recognizing these patterns and actively working to correct them, not just for our own safety, but for everyone else sharing the road with us: pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists, and fellow drivers alike. If this video helped you see your own driving a little differently, or even just reminded you of habits you've let slip over time, that's exactly what we're going for. Safer roads start with small individual changes, and every driver who improves makes the roads just a little bit better for everyone else too. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you found this useful, drop a comment letting me know which mistake surprised you the most, or which one you're guilty of yourself. Don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who could use a friendly reminder before their next drive. And of course, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you never miss the next video packed with practical driving tips and road safety insights. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.